we are holding in Kafei Daled. We're in the middle of Hanhagas B'Yem Avest, and we finished off last time with sleeping in one bed on the Yom Avest. I wanted to just read to everyone a Shevet Alevi on that last detail. He's talking about Nigiya. Is there an Isser Nigiya on the Yom Avest? You're all going to tell me obviously not, because you all saw there's a Chumrah of Chibuk V'Nishak, but not Shar Krevos. So the Shevet Alevi, there's two Shevet Alevis. One's in Shuvas, and one is in Shiri Shevet Alevi. Obviously, Shiri Shevet Alevi is based on his Shiurim. Chuvas is he wrote. But what's interesting is that in the Chuvas he writes, regarding Nigiya Ba'alma, Loi Gazru. Okay, very sensible. Loi Gazru and Nigiya Ba'alma. Regarding in the Shiurim, apparently the way that he said it over, again, the Shiurim are not a transcript, it's a Talmud of his that wrote it, but they say it's pretty verified. He says, V'shar kir shachiba kinigiya, shari. Amnam im oisa kein mishum chiba, efshur d'yesh lahachmir, k'chibak v'nichsho kam shar krivas. What I see from the Shevet Levi is really the idea that we spoke about last time, is we have the din that tashvish is aser. We have the chumrah of chibuk v'nishak. Now, at what level are things within the realm of the chumrah that you're going to get the tafel of bracha, and what realm are they in the chumrah of using your brain? That line, I'm not sure. One time I asked Marishiva Yechil Per about certain Indian of a bracha. He said, don't worry about it, leave it to Hashem. We'll figure out how to give out this chusim. That's not your concern. So, certain things are within the realm of chumrah. What's the chumrah? The chumrah is to use your brain. So I see from the Shevet Levi here a similar idea, that if it's going to be different, Ritzoy, the Art School book writes that lightheaded or intimate talk should be avoided. What do you mean? Shar Krevus is mutter. Okay, Shkoyach, Shar Krevus is mutter. Still, you're supposed to, that's, okay, that's just wrapping up. This, as long as it doesn't confuse people more what I just said. Are we good? We're good. Okay, Zaruah. We never spoke to Zaruah. How in the world can we move on to the latter Sifim? And as many people today were doing Chazara on Sif Beis. Chazara on Sif Beis through the Beis Yosef, obviously, Baruch Hashem. So, the Zaruah. So, the Zaruah, it's a massive machlekes Rishayim. Just if you think that no one else quotes Zaruah, it's not true. The Chumash Hadashin quotes Zaruah, the Tesis Rita quotes Zaruah, the Maharil quotes Zaruah, Leket Yesher brings Zaruah. There are many Rishayim that do bring this Zaruah, which, and as much as we then get to the Machaber, and the Machaber says, Ein tam v'shayrish l'dvarim. The Machaber is quite violent, and the Taz comes along, Tamuahu lahachmir. I understand, but it is Rishayim, meaning sometimes the Beis Yosef didn't quote it, and then you get to the Shulchan Aruch and the Taz, and they're blasting this Zaruah. So you're like, okay, this whole thing is nilchik la'alacha. There's this one shita Zaruah, it doesn't exist. It's not really true. There are Rishayim that go with it. However, with that understanding, what's the Psak Halacha? Obviously, the Psak Halacha is the Mechaber, the Psak Halacha is the Ramah, is the Taz, is the Yavitz, is the Sidri Teir of Akiveger, Chavaz Das, Kraz, and Chachmas Adam, that they all say that we're not chayshish for the Zaruah. So the Psak Halacha is what's your vest? Your vest is your vest. Let's be very clear, just for clarity purposes. What does it mean, your vest? The Aina time period of that which you saw last month. What is the Aina time period of that which you saw last month? The day or night time period that you saw last month. Last month it's only going to be on Chayshish for 10 hours or 13 hours, because last month to this month we changed the clocks, the day and night time period changed, whatever it is. Change the clock doesn't really make a difference. But what's the answer? We're not chayshish for the Avi Yosef. The Avi Yosef said what? We are chayshish for exact hours. Says the Shach, we don't go with the Avi Yosef. We go with the day or night. So the word Aina in the world of Vestis means day or night time period. Whatever you saw last month, this month you mark on the calendar, day or night, you are chayshish. What is the chash? Tashmish. That is what is aser. What is the chumrah, chibuk v'nishak, etc. What about the Zaruah? Let's define the Zaruah with absolute clarity. I'm not saying you were wrong in your review questions, just needs a little more clarity. It's not simply 24 hours. It's the Aina before that which you're chayshish. Now you're going to tell me, what does that mean? That's 24 hours. The answer is no, it's not. If it was a night vest, it's the day before. If it was a day vest, it's the night before. It's not the 24-hour block of your vest. Now you're looking at me like I am insane. Let me explain. If I see at night, the 24-hour block of my vest would be in English the next day. because the block of 24 hours, if I'm sitting at night, if we're talking at night and I say, for the 24 hours, you're going to say, the 24 hours of the day. And halacha, day starts at night, so it goes from night through day. There's a chiddush of this Zaruah that we're being chayshish 12 hours, the oina early, not the block of 24 hours. Even though it's a different halachic day, very good. Now I'm gonna jump and I'm gonna come back to this point. There's a crazy uplacey that says on the oina beininus, which you're all learning right now, then we're chayshish for the 24-hour block. What does that mean? It does not mean the same thing as our Zaruah. For example, if someone's Aina Beinis, they're day 30, we'll say for now, whether it's 30, 31, Chavasdas, Aina Beinis, we'll get there in a moment. But if your day 30 falls out at night, Lafida Zaruah, perhaps, when would you have to be concerned? The day prior. Lafida Crazy Uplacey that I just taught you all, when are you concerned? The next day. The next day. Now the next day. If the vest is at night, the Zaruah says Shemeh Hiktim Vesta. May it will be early as the day prior. Lefi the crazy place, when is it? The day after. Then it's the 24-hour block. Hopefully you could hold that idea in your brain. I want to go in order. And theoretically, if you told both of them, it would be 36 hours. Theoretically, it could be 36 hours. Or, very good, Cassie's pointing out, thank you. But let's say your Aina Beinis is by day. Then both the Zaruah and the crazy uplacey would have agreed to the same time period being the night prior. Fascinating. Beautiful response. Let's get there in one moment. Now, so what's the story with the Zaruah? Famously, they say Zaruah latzadik. The Chachani says B'nai Torah are machmir. Now it's interesting, the Chaim Kanievsky storybooks. Chaim Kanievsky storybooks, you find very interesting, 4,000 different answers to 3,000 different shilas, how that happens, yesh laden. But not that it didn't happen, it just, he's writing an answer to the shaila he was given. That was the siyata shmaya at that moment. So in one sefer, they quote Chaim as saying, unefutza shmua. There's a widespread shmua, shemikol makam ahayir lebnei Torah. We should teach bnei Torah lahachmer b'zeh. He's talking about the Zaruah. Hayim nachin ashmua, is it true? So what did Chaim answer? Tshuva, loy shamati, ukemeduma she'enoi nachin. Interesting. So Chaim seemingly is teaching that Bnei Torah don't have to be taught it. Maybe everyone should be taught it. So the other sefer from Chaim Kanievsky, and as we're going to see right now, it's all comes from like Chazon Ish. The Chazon Ish there's a sefer Taras Bas Yisrael. I'll bring it in. It was the foremost Likud sefer in Hilchos Nida. In many areas, they still use it as the guide to teach Chasanim. It's a teeny little sefer, and the Chazon Ish gave his haskama. So it's a pretty good haskama. In the letter, in the haskama, this is like, for those who actually read haskamas, the Chazon Ish in the letter he writes as follows: Acharei she'ateres l'shalom v'akresi u'plesi v'ateres l'moishe v'agoyner kiveger v'achavas das v'beis lachem yudah mekilim ein lahachmir v'cheiner maskanas l'chachma zadam ella she'echmer l'nin yud beishais v'shar achreinim mekilim bazeh. So seemingly in the Chazon Ish's own pen, he was not machmer for this Zaruah as he wrote in the letter. Now, what people want to explain is very good. In the letter, in the Sefer to Klal Yisrael, this is how the Chachani, from this Krelitz, who's all say Mishpach over there, this is the Chayra, he would explain, that in the letter for Klal Yisrael, that's the din. B'nai Torah perhaps are taught a higher darga. The Taras Yisrael, that Sefer, inside he writes a Tavai, a love, bracha. The Kilas Yaakov, his disciple, also says, Loi chashash, and we'll leave it at that. I'm sorry?
Now you join that with the Chaim.
Correct. No, Chaim was saying what? He was answering that question. I agree with you. That's the saying. There's two series in Chaim's. Listen, the Mikubal is how many Kitzur Sfarim quote, which is similar to what the Shach. Yari Dvar Hashem is Noikar Zura. That's what the Shach says. We know the Shach is always Amen Hayra. The Bach says similarly, Noig Oilam Chumra Zu. And the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch says, Chen Yesh Lenog. We know the Kitzur made was a lot of them in Hagim back in Europe came from the Kitzur. Ramosha in Yardei Chelik Gimel, in as much as Rav David Feinstein says, this was not the pen of my father in V'dibar Tabam, but Ramosha writes Lohi Lachmir. Rosh Mizalman writes Toiv Lahachmir. The Shevet HaLevi writes Toiv. So it would seem He doesn't write Taiv, excuse me. He just writes you should be Pirish. It would seem, and Rosh Zalman says B'nai Torah Machmir, and that's how many kitzurs farm. I like the best. No Negias involved. I like the best to say for Al Yisrael, El Sarah, Rabbi Martone from Lakewood. The way that he wrote it, he said it very nicely, and I think that's the way we're going to end. Period. Many Achronim, one second, are not Cheshish. Umikol makam harbe b'nei Torah noi hagim lahachmir b'toiras chumra, and that's what it is. Meaning the din is not. Many take it on. Now, before I take your question, 1 second. Then always the follow-up question is, okay, so maybe I wasn't. Do I have to continue? I'll take your question. I just want to follow the train of thought. Do I have to continue? What's your question? Question is, we all know that in the world of Nidarim, everyone learning Nidarim now in Daf Yomi, knows that if you do a Maisa Taiva and Haga Taiva 2 times, it gets a din of a neder. And a Nidrei Mitzvah. So now, the Paiskim here speak out, the Shevet Alevi says it explicitly, that you don't even need a Taras Nidarim to be Mekel. You don't need a Taras Nidarim. What's the reason? The reason is because it's only a Chumrah. So what's a Chumrah? Chumrah is you do when you do a Chumrah. When you don't do a Chumrah, you can't do Chumrah. Now, asks Harbe Shayalim, but I was taught it's din. My chassid teacher was violent, and he taught me, he didn't want, maybe he wasn't violent, maybe he thought I was ignorant, and he didn't want to tell me Chumrah, not Chumrah. He just told me what to do. He gave me the 4 dummies. Maybe he thought you were B'nai Torah. He said, this is what we do. We do 30, we do our Zaruah good. So now, one says, 1 second. Maybe now I've been Noig our Zaruah, not B'Torah's Chumrah, and therefore I need a Taras Nadarim. And then it'll be a Shayla, are you allowed to have a Taras Nadarim? So what's the answer?
It's a chumrah.
No, it's not the answer. It's an answer.
You can't be Noig.
Good. The answer is it was a Tais. No. The halachic answer, Nidarim, I'm saying what you're saying, I'm just putting in halachic terms, is that it was a Tais. You thought the halacha was X, and the halacha wasn't X. So in the world of when you... Good. So you were doing it, that person is doing it, but there is nothing. He's doing it, but there is Tais, and he needs nothing. Maybe some would argue that maybe there are those who write you should be matir neder. The nafkamina obviously is in a makamat zayrich. Maybe everyone's going to say, okay, there's a nice reputable chomer. Now, I want to be maktim. Not maktim. So let's continue. Let's continue the train of thought. Let's continue this train of thought. Rosh Zalman says the Shmuel Hikel b'Shana Rishayna. Shana Rishayna or Mekel and Zaruah, which this really spurred Klal Yisrael that many say this, and then this is where when does Shana Rishayna start? When does it end? Someone I don't know who I heard this from, so I don't want to say anyone because I have no clue. No. Oh yeah, it's also someone I heard a nice idea. You're sitting in Kaila learning Hilchas Nida, but in the worlds, what they do when they get married is, I don't want to be that nice, but the most they're going to be doing the rest of their marriage, usually. So if someone says, Shem Zalman says, I'm Mekel Shana Rishayna, and do they get a call, automated call at the end on their anniversary, hi, Shana Rishayna is up, start being Mekel Zaruah? It's a little bit of a catch-22. Those who are not taught it, and therefore it's difficult. So I'm not arguing, I'm just pointing out that if you want to go into Shem Zalman, you know, Chap? Bro. I didn't have the triple espresso today purposely because last time he told me. I said that if someone's going to say in Shana Rishayna be Mekel, so what does that mean? They're not taught the Zaruah. Hey, Givaldik. I call you up, you married 10 years. Say, hi, you know such as Zaruah. Oh, really? I was told to be Mekel. No, you were told to be Mekel. Shana Rishayna. Who in the world after Shana Rishayna is like, oh, now with Night Seder. So right, with Night Seder. Oh, you go to Night Seder, boom, Zaruah. Or I'm just giving a balabatish a point that often I'm giving a balabatish a point that you're a tzaddik. So good, you know the halacha. So you know for the beginning of the week we make, and then I'm machmer. I'm pointing out, and this is based on stats of kailim like these, that people are like, oh no, I was told in the beginning. Is it the beginning? I don't know, whatever. So I just don't know. I'm just saying in the nusach, if you're going to teach someone, you want to teach a chassan, and you tell them, don't be mekel, don't do the Zaruah the first year. I just don't. I'm asking a nusach. I don't know if that's necessarily the way to teach it. Could be the way to teach it is more like we saw in the Sefer Al Sarah, that the din is that it's a mutter. There's a chumrah of the Zaruah, and ben Torah should try to be machmer. But I want to point out something else. Often, as we're about to see, there's Sfarim that write about what about Leil Shabbos? Can you be mekel? And there's no specific heter of Leil Shabbos. So the answer with these things, which is, I believe, a good asterisk that has to be taught, that often it's Izeu Chacham Arayis and Nailad. Often it's use your brain, meaning if someone has a vest calendar, and someone knows, okay, this coming week, my whatever vest, I don't want to talk yet, that's going to be the next, we'll talk about that in one moment, is going to fall out on Thursday night, so be together Wednesday night. Meaning, or my Zaruah is going to fall out. Often one gets into the shayla of should I yes or no be machber on the Zaruah because they wake up and, oh shoot. So plan prior. Part of vestais, part of learning vestais, and really this is Hakdama when we learn Kuf Beit Tes, is to have the foresight to utilize halacha. So if someone's going to say, Dafka, don't be together on this day and be together on the Zaruah, that's silly. So all the times that it comes to the Shazachak, someone calls up on a Friday afternoon on a short winter night, and the Zaruah is Leil Shabbos, and it's a long winter night, and I haven't been together with my wife for 4 days, and okay, so Avada we're going to be makel as you're all hearing. But the question is, well, why did you get yourself into that story? Why didn't you avoid that? And of course, no one's going to say that there's, you want to say, is this what level of chumrah? This is part of the cheshbon of brain. Is that part of knowing what's going on? Some want to say that this is the maila of a physical calendar versus a technological calendar. Because a technological calendar, sometimes you don't necessarily think about it until you get that reminder, that email that you're usher. Okay, I do believe that by nowadays there are settings that you can get the reminder whenever you want. So you could set it to get the reminder 2 days before, and then gevaldik. But that is just a thought to keep in our mind, that once we're realizing the difference between chumrah and not, and how we're teaching it, is Ezeu Chacham Arayas and Noilan. Now, are you good? Yeah, we're good. Okay, so now on the point of, we say crazy uplacey. So I don't know if Eilam saw this, because really this is connected to Sif Tes. This is connected to what is an Oina Beininus. Because now, when you dive into the lumdus of an Oina Beininus, as you all started seeing, that is a din of a ves kavua, comes along numerous paiskim, and they say, do you have to be chayshish for the Zaruah on the Oina Beininus? So at face value, you would say, of course, because we know, meaning we're talking till now, Zaruah on Yom HaChodesh, the day of the month that you're supposed to see, on the interval day, the haflaga that you're supposed to see, or whatever your vest is. We don't learn vestis yet, so we have to get there. But now, what about Oina Beininus? So one would think, of course, we're in the middle of seeing in Sif Taz that Oina Beininus has much more stringent dinim. But comes, so then certainly you should have to be worried. No. Why? Why? A little more? Drop more? You're almost there. Not. You have to say one more. No, you have to say drop more. Because whether the drop more, the place can speak out. It's a very important nekuda that what is the chashash of an Oina Beininus versus the chashash of a Yom HaChodesh. And this is a lamdis, and I'm going to. I like to try to be as honest as possible. This is a debatable point in the Heintig of Paiskin. And Heintig, I mean, this is Machlekes or Shem Zalman and Rav Elyashiv Kilu. We'll just say it like that, just to keep everything simple. Do we allow the lumdis of the Oina Beininus to play into our Zaruah? What does that mean? If you learn, everyone agrees that the Oina Beininus, the chashash is you might see on 30 days, like every woman in the world sees. So comes along Rav Shlomo Zalman, we'll read it from him. He says, Yesh lodin lahakal, listen to the Sefer Shulchan Shleima. Kiban dahavi tarti desasri, he says. Why is it a stira? Says Shlomo Zalman, dahainu kivan shachshash atira karoiv nashim. What is Oina Beininus? You might see, like the majority of women, vari roiv nashim einon makdimos riyasin lefnei oinas vestan akavua. Roiv nashim see on the 30th Oina, and not one vest earlier. So therefore what? You should not to be chayshish. The whole Zaruah makes no sense. It's the Tarti Desasi. The whole part of the Zaruah is Shema Hikt Investa. Maybe you're going to, I have the CV here if you're looking for it. Okay. Shema Hikt Investa. Maybe you're going to see earlier, but it's not true. It's not true because the whole Chash, so they called it a Tarti Desasri. V'marti davar zel lefnei Meir v'Rabbi Yegun Shem Zaman Aruch Zatzal v'hu taveinav, and he liked my svara. M'kol makam amrli shel dinei nahakam. So this is that nuance. But, and with this we're not going to conclude, but let's delve a drop deeper. Many paiskim speak out that there's this thing called the crazy uplacey, and I'm gonna jump right now. Just sometimes it makes it easier when you jump all the way to the English books. I'm gonna jump right now that the Rabbi Forst Shlita writes over here so beautifully in page 402 and 3 in volume 1, he writes as follows. He says, one should note that in the opinion of many Paiskim, the Oina Beinanis is typo. For anyone who thought art school doesn't make typos, it's a good chizik. A always, it's always, cross off that A, send them in a note, is always a complete day. What did that just say? Did that just say the Ar Zaruah? No. You look at note 59 at the bottom, crazy, uplesi. That is who he's quoting. Others quote also a graz. What does that mean? What that means is not the Ar Zaruah. That's why on all the tests I wrote Chaft al Shayis, it made me a little bit agitated. Because it's not, Ar Zaruah is not Chaft al Shayis. Ar Zaruah is Hiktim Vesta, Talia night or day. This crazy or placey, this graz is the entire day of the Aina. So that's what we're going to be chayshish for on the Aina Beinanis, not the Ar Zaruah. So it's that confusing, and this, I have theories, not my theories, people have theories. I don't believe this is necessarily taught this way, and I think we can't do this right now.
What's that called?
Right. I'll say this. I think the way that it's taught is something called a vest. There's 3 basic vestes. All vestes nowadays, basically they're taught generally it's going to be Veshen Kavua, which when we learn Kuf Pei Tes, we'll discuss that. And there's one, the day of the month, Yom HaChedesh. There's one, Yom HaFlaga, the interval day, the amount of time between the last 2 times he saw. And then there's one, the Ayin Bein is day 30 or day 31, depending on whatever. And then they teach something called an Ar Zaruah, which is a Chumrah, which is the Aina before. I believe that's how they teach Nikuda. Now, for those statisticians amongst us, you're going to have to play out the math to see where the cases are going to lie that's going to be an nafkamina. But let's get there in a moment. L'chayra, the correct way to teach, or I don't say correct because I said it is a machlekes, but one could, there's a large svara, we're going to go with this. Rabbi Forrest writes this way, a lot of the Kittusim write this way, I'll be this for Shem Zalman, even though he himself wasn't 100% about it, is that on the Aina Beinanis, we're not chayshish the Aina before. On the Aina Beinanis, we're chayshish for the block of time. So good. Let's just say a day vest to keep it simple. On a night vest, on a night vest, when are we chayshish on the Aina Beinanis? The night and the next day. Not the day before that. Good. On the Yom HaFlaga, on the Yom HaChedesh, when are we going to be chayshish? The night. And when's the Chumrah going to be? The day before, whenever it is, night or day. That nikuda, that split, is a very mistaverdik split and makes a lot of sense. And that's l'chayr da halacha. Just for those whose brains are trying to churn over here, the reason, I'm going to leave it because I have 4 minutes. I'll get to this point. I'll get to this point afterwards. Now, finally, so where are we up to? What do we have to know now? That's not the way it's taught. The reason not is you have to do math and find out that realize it's not such an afkamina. It's less than that. We'll do the math afterwards. I'll explain to you why. Very quickly, the math is only.
Yeah, but you can mess up. There's only 6 months a year.
No.
30 and 31 is not the same.
Forget about day 30, 31. They're teaching every Aina just do the vest before, which means in every day 30 you can do the vest before. And we're saying here, l'chayr the chumrah is not the vest before, the vest after. Right. So now, the reason why it's not such an afkamina is because anytime because they're also teaching that one should not be together by day. So therefore, with regarding to the actual Isser of Tashmish.
What do you mean?
In general. In general. And therefore, if it's going to be a night vest, this conversation in the world of a chassan teacher is not really nageya. Because anyways, chayshish the day before, the day after, who cares? It's only really an afkamina. So now if it's a day vest, so then the chumrah of the Ar Zaruah is going to be the night before. Whereas, right? And the chumrah of the crazy is the night before. So do the math, and it's not really going to be such an afkamina.
It could be that they're answering a night before when really you're not answering.
That's the crazy ublazy. Anyways, it's a chumrah.
They're telling the Ar Zaruah, really the crazy place would say you're fine. Right?
No, on which day? On which vest?
Let's say she has a night vest. Oh, so either way they get also.
That's why I'm saying it's not such an afkamina, but in the world of MS, l'chayra, that's the way to be. And what else conclude? Pashtus, it's the same level of chumrah. Pashtus, same level of chumrah. The grass brings down the crazy placey. It's taken on as basically the same level of chumrah. You want to know is it less? Yeah, l'chayra, it's the same. Meaning it's the same level. Whenever it comes to daning chumras, it's very difficult. There's something called din, there's something called chumrah. It's hard to dan these things. But finally, chavra, are we being machmir? Is are we being machmir here? No, that's not so true. We'll talk about that afterwards. Are we being machmir here? 1 second. We have 1 minute. Chibuk v'nishuk on the chumrah. chibik v'nishuk on the chumras. Now we have to put the two last shirim together, and what do we come out with? So based on everything that you're hearing today, what's the answer? So Rav Yashiv, they say, had a nusach that trei chumras lo yamrinan. You don't say chumra al gabe chumra. It's not the same nusach as gezeira like zeira. It's not the same thing. Chibik v'nishuk on the Zaruah. On the Zaruah.
Sounds a little far-fetched if the whole...
Right, correct.
Whatever you do
Good. I'm saying at the end of the day, when we're boiling it all down, we're paskening not like the Zaruah. We're paskening that there's the chumrah of the Zaruah. So now the shaila is, in that chumrah, does the chumrah of the Zaruah mechayiv chibav v'nishuk the pash? What? Excuse me. So no. First we have to get the pashtus. Pashtus the answer is there's no chumrah on that day. But you're right. I did see that they quote B'Shem Rai Berkowitz, like you're saying, is that he did say that Lamaisi you still have to use your seichel. That the whole chumrah is not to come lidei tashmish. So if your chibav v'nishuk is going to bring you to tashmish, then you shouldn't do that. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. But the simple answer in din in text is it's trei chumras is. Trei chumras lo yamrinan, and finally, just because the Eilam was very sefridin with the yam shenavaycha bahem, are you going to add on the Zaruah on top of that? Of the Ramah and Sif Beis?